Welcome back, friends, and thank you so much for tuning in. Today, I'm going to be sharing with you the process to go from student to therapist. I've broken down this video into 3 separate parts to make it easy for you to follow. Part 1 is researching and applying to graduate programs. Part 2, we're going to be discussing what to expect in year 1 and year 2 of your graduate program. And the last part of this video, we're going to be discussing getting your first license, becoming a licensed associate counselor, and then getting fully licensed and becoming a licensed professional counselor here in New Jersey. If this is your first time joining me, welcome. My name is Gabriela Lopez. I'm a licensed therapist here in New Jersey, and I'm the proud owner of Therapeutic Self-Care, a group practice where we provide quality mental health services and teach simple self-care practices to help keep your mental health a priority. Let's get started. Part number 1, we're going to be discussing researching and applying to graduate school. I recommend spending some time here, really finding the program that works best with you. There are programs that offer online courses, and there's also programs that offer evening hours to fit your schedule. This is something that I tell all students to really take some time in finding the right program for them. The other consideration to make when you're researching these programs is whether or not to pursue a 60 credit program or a 90 credit program. A 60 credit program is typically broken down into 2 semesters, your fall semester and your spring semester, and you have about 5 classes per semester. The 90 credit program is broken up into 4 quarters in 1 year, and each quarter you're taking about 3 classes. So in 1 year, you're taking about 12 classes in the 90 credit program, and in the 60 credit program, you're taking about 10. Both programs take you about 2 years to complete, but the biggest difference is the amount of hours that you'll have to be required to do after. So for the 90 credit program, you're only required to do 3,000 hours. In the 60 credit program, you're required to do 4,500 hours. So that's a difference of 1,500 hours that you could be saving in time to get your full licensure. So something to keep in mind as you're researching these programs and trying to figure out which one works best for you. Another very important consideration to look for when you're researching for your graduate program is ensuring that that graduate program is setting you up for licensure in the state that you're planning on pursuing licensure in. So for example, maybe you are applying for a graduate program in Arizona, but you live here in New Jersey. You want to make sure that you contact that program's coordinator to ensure that they're setting you up for licensure and the licensing requirements here in New Jersey. Another thing to keep in mind as you're researching these graduate programs is many of these programs have GPA requirements. They have a minimum GPA requirement for you to meet to even apply for their program, but you also have to maintain that GPA requirement throughout the program in order to stay there. Something to keep in mind. If your GPA was pretty low as an undergraduate, you may need to take some additional courses to get your GPA back up there and then become a better candidate for these programs. Another thing to keep in mind as you're researching these graduate programs is, does your program require the GRE scores? The GRE stands for the Graduate Record Exam. This is a standardized test to show that you've learned enough as an undergraduate to now progress into a graduate level program. Not all graduate programs require the GRE, but if your program does, you want to make sure you're taking this test and sending those scores in during that application process. Another consideration to look for when you're researching for these graduate programs is, does your program require a thesis? A thesis is a huge research project that you do in year 1 and year 2 of your program under the supervision of a professor at your school or college. Lastly, deadlines. Many of these graduate programs have deadlines as to when to apply. So for example, if you are hoping to start in the fall of 2025, most of these graduate deadlines are at the beginning of the year of 2025. Once you've found the right program for you, the next step is applying to these programs. Most of the applications are now done online, and the fees for these applications can range anywhere between $60 all the way to $150. If you were an EOF student or a part of the Educational Opportunity Fund program as an undergraduate, please reach out to your EOF advisors to see if they can help you get some of these application fees waived. Some other things that you may need to send over during this application process is a copy of your undergraduate degree and transcript. Graduate programs want to see what your GPA was throughout your undergraduate years, but they also want to make sure that you've taken all the prerequisite classes you need in order to move into the graduate level program. Another document to send over is the scores for your GRE. If the program that you are applying to requires the GRE scores, you want to make sure that you're sending that during this application process. And a copy of an updated resume. In your resume, you want to include any mental health experience that you've had in order to make yourself a better candidate for these graduate programs. Another document that most graduate programs require of you is called a Statement of Professional Objectives. In this statement, you want to highlight why you are a good candidate for their graduate program and how you plan on using this degree to advance your counseling career. The last few things to send over are professional recommendation letters. These can be done by professors, previous supervisors, anyone that can attest to your professionalism and discuss your ability to complete the graduate program. Remember, all graduate programs want you to finish. So always provide evidence that highlights your ability to finish this graduate program. Once you've sent in all the documents for your application, the final step is the interview process. Typically, this interview is with the program coordinator or one of the professors within the graduate program that you're applying to. Their goal is to see and make sure that you are the right candidate. Once you have your interview, about a month or two later, you'll get a letter or a phone call from the program coordinator to let you know that you've been accepted into their program. Part 2, we're going to be discussing what to expect in year 1 and year 2 of your graduate program. In year 1, your courses are going to be focused on teaching you basic counseling skills and the theories behind them. In year 2, your courses will continue to build off of one another, and you'll learn more about diagnosing and properly coming up with evidence-based treatment plans to properly help your clients. Another thing to keep in mind on what you should expect during your graduate program is your practicum placement. During year 1, you will be looking for your practicum placement. This isn't something most programs do for you, it's something you have to do on your own. During year 2, you will start at your practicum placement, and you want to make sure that you're also meeting with a supervisor at the practicum site once a week to go over your cases and make sure that you're applying a lot of these techniques correctly with your clients. During that first part of your practicum placement, you're only going to be working maybe about 8 to 10 hours a week, doing some office things and also meeting with clients. And then during the second half of your practicum placement, the hours will increase to about 18 to 20 hours per week. This is your opportunity to apply some of the counseling skills that you are learning in school and get that experience towards your full licensure. For those of you who do have a thesis requirement, during year 1, you're going to be focused on coming up with your thesis project with your advisor and getting the necessary approvals to conduct this research at your university or college. During year 2, you're going to be collecting data, running assessments, and also running analyses to find out what your results were. Then you're going to be writing it up and preparing to defend your thesis. What that means is you'll be sitting and presenting your research to an advisor or another professor to show the significance of the research project that you've done. During year 2, you'll also be sitting for the National Counselor Exam, also called the NCE. This is a 4-hour test. It's a standardized test to show that you've learned enough during your graduate program to now sit for licensure. Please keep in mind, you do need to pass this test in order to become licensed and actually work as a licensed therapist. And you did it. You passed all your classes, you did all your hours at your practicum, you passed the NCE, you defended your thesis. Now you're ready to apply for graduation. If this is you, it's 100% understandable to feel burnt out at this time. Please rest assured you've done the hardest part. It's not easy and not everyone can graduate, but you mastered it. Part number 3, we're going to be talking about getting your first license and then becoming fully licensed as a licensed professional counselor. The next step is applying for your LAC, which stands for Licensed Associate Counselor. I'm going to share the application below for you to check out. You're going to send this application over to the state as well as the fee to process this application. You're also going to be sending over a copy of your NCE scores and your degree and transcript over to the state. Once the state approves everything, they're going to issue you a date to go and get your fingerprints done to make sure that you are cleared of any criminal background before they issue you your license. Once you have your license, you're then able to apply for a position where you provide counseling services, and then you have to look for a supervisor. The supervisor has to be fully licensed, so they can be an LPC or an LCSW who also has an approved clinical supervisor certificate or an ACS. Once you found that supervisor and they have agreed to supervise you every week, you will send over what's called a plan of supervision form to the state. This is filled out by your supervisor, sent over to the state, and approved by the state in order for that supervisor to continue supervising you throughout the counseling experience. Another very important detail to keep in mind is that the state of New Jersey only allows 1,500 hours to be collected in one physical year, or 30 hours per week to go towards your final licensure. And you did it. You finally completed all your clinical hours. If you graduated from a 60 credit program, that means you've completed 4,500 hours. The next step is to submit an application for your LPC and contacting all your clinical supervisors to have them send over an additional form documenting the hours that they were able to supervise you during that time. Once all those forms are completed, you pay one final fee and you're done. They issue you your final license, and now you're officially a licensed professional counselor here in New Jersey. Congratulations. Thank you so much for staying tuned until the very end of this video. Please make sure to comment below any questions you might have, or if you need further clarification on anything. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe so you don't miss out on our newest videos. Until next time, friends, take care.